On the Shortness of Life by Seneca. Seneca lived from around 4 BC to 65 AD and was everything from a Stoic philosopher to a statesman, a skilled public speaker, to a tragedian, a writer of tragedies. He then pursued a career in politics and went on to become a high-ranking financial clerk where he became quite wealthy. However, this success would soon falter when, in 41 AD, he was exiled to the island of Corsica by Claudius on the premise of supposed adultery with Julia Livilia, the emperor's niece. Just over a decade later, Seneca returned and became Nero's advisor from 54 AD to 62 AD. Nero was going to become the future emperor, and when he took his place, it was realized that he would become one of the most tyrannical leaders in the history of the Roman Empire. Seneca was then caught up in the Pisonian conspiracy that aimed to kill and replace Nero as emperor. Although it was unlikely that Seneca was actually involved, he was ordered by the emperor to kill himself by severing several veins in order to bleed to death. Although Seneca's life had extreme upsides and downsides, his implementation of the Stoic philosophy that he taught to others throughout his life allowed him to handle the hardships that he faced in life. Seneca wrote many essays during his lifetime, and today we'll be exploring the key lessons held within one of his most famous ones, On the Shortness of Life. This was written around 49 AD and focuses primarily on the nature of time and, more specifically, how people waste much of it in meaningless pursuits. Seneca observes that most of us completely dedicate our lives to useless tasks that have no depth or significance. It is this that ultimately leads our lives to have no real substance or have any real achievements to look proudly back upon when we traipse into old age. Seneca states that it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. But how do we waste it? What activities do we partake in that we would be better off avoiding? Seneca suggests a few. Firstly, chasing material pleasures such as money, the latest fashion trends, luxury cars, etc. Secondly, distracting ourselves. This can be seen almost everywhere today with our obsession with our phones and addiction to social media. We are permanently distracting ourselves with these devices so that we don't ever have to reflect upon who we really are, where we have been, and where we are really going with our lives. It is a heavy burden to bear once one faces inwards, but when one looks back on their life, they will be grateful that they had the strength to do so. Next is the idea of working for someone else, or for almost your entire life, until you are 60 years old, retire, and look back on your life and ask, where did it all go? Next is spending our time mindlessly consuming drugs and alcohol. This links back to the idea discussed above, that if one chooses to spend their time drinking, then half their life will be spent drunk and unconscious, and so they won't have to face the task of any true self-reflection. It is an escape from both life and from the truth. Also, worrying about what others think. We'll discuss more of this in depth later. And lastly, going after no fixed goal. If we do not set goals for ourselves or give ourselves any direction in life, then we will wander in circles and will never make any progress. This will be discussed more towards the end of the video. Seneca states, "We are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not ill-supplied, but wasteful of it." This reinforces that it is us who are in control of how much we can achieve in life, either very little or some extremely tremendous things. Another important quote describing the effects of wasting one's life on the above distractions. "Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past, neglect the present, and fear the future. When they come to the end of it, the poor wretches realize that too late, that for all this time they have been preoccupied in doing nothing." But Seneca does offer some consolation. He states, "Life is long if you know how to use it." It is the sign of a great man and one who is above human error not to allow his time to be frittered away. To make sure our time here on earth is spent well, we need to value and respect it and not give it away to any of those time-swallowing vices discussed earlier. Similarly, we need to make sure that we do not give all of it away to others, and we must make sure that we keep our time dedicated to ourselves. Seneca asks us to reflect upon this. If such people want to know how short their lives are, let them reflect how small a portion is their own. Also, we need to dedicate our time to those tasks of the highest value that allow us to grow in character, understanding, and give us true happiness. Of all the people, only those are at leisure who make time for philosophy. Only those are really alive. This also includes stuff such as art, literature, science, and so on. And finally, if you apply yourself to study, you will avoid all boredom with life. So it is important that we focus as much on gaining mental clarity as we can, as opposed to numbing the brain as much as we can with those pointless tasks that we looked at earlier. Next, we will look at how we worry about the opinions of others. Seneca begins by stating that we must be especially careful in choosing people and deciding whether they are worth devoting a part of our life to them, whether the sacrifice of our time makes a difference to them, for some people actually charge us for our services to them. If we step back just the tiniest bit and look at our relations with some of those around us, we will realise that we spend time with some people who add absolutely no meaning to our life and who we don't even like. It is important that we try our best not to waste our time on any of these types of relationships because there is no way that at the end of your life you're going to look back and say, oh, I'm so glad that I gave my time to every person that wanted to whine and complain about every little thing going on in their life. Also, I'm really happy that I listened to all those rumours and all that gossip that, quite frankly, I didn't even care about, but I'm really happy I did. It's not going to happen like this, and it is these sort of things that lead us to regrets when looking back on our lives, because we wish we would have spent our time doing more meaningful stuff. Also, we should be wary of those who are extremely pessimistic and do nothing but complain. A companion who is agitated and groaning about everything is an enemy to the peace of mind. Similarly, Seneca states, "So you must not think a man has lived long because he has white hair and wrinkles. He has not lived long, just existed long." So we should not concern ourselves with the old people who tell us that life passes by in the blink of an eye, for they have not used their time well and may have wasted it. Hence, they would view their lives as short. However, if they had used their time well, then they would most likely appreciate the time that they had and would be proud of how they spent it and would not be whining about it being behind them. The reason most of us never set any goals in life, according to Seneca, is because we live as if we were destined to live forever. Because of this view, one therefore never feels the need to set any goals, because to set goals implies an appreciation for time, and that is something that one does not have, because they spend their time on useless habits. Next, Seneca tells us that you must consider whether your nature is more suited to practical activity or to quiet study and reflection, and incline in the direction of your natural faculty and disposition take you. Once we find out what one we are inclined towards, we can set goals to improve in that area and will be able to accomplish the greatest things. However, although planning one's life and establishing a set of goals is extremely important, it is far more important to act upon these goals. Seneca writes, "Can anything be more idiotic than certain people who boast of their foresight? They are just spending their lives organising their lives. But putting things off is the biggest waste of life. It snatches away each day as it comes and denies us the present by promising the future. We must remember to take action daily, even hourly, towards achieving our goals." Lastly, Seneca talks about the power of the mind. Our journey towards our goals is bound to come up against some obstacles and hardships, and so it is important that we are able to recognise and utilise the power that is within our mind. This was also discussed in last week's episode on the book Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and also in Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, in some of the most tragic situations that one may find themselves in. So how do we utilise the power of the mind? We should also withdraw a lot into ourselves, for associating with people unlike ourselves upsets a calm disposition, stirs up passions again, and aggravates any mental weakness, which has not been completely cured. However, the two things must be mingled and varied. Each will be a remedy for the other. It is important that we withdraw into ourselves and reflect upon our situation, and the more we do this, the more we will be able to recognize and develop a strong mind that helps us achieve our goals. Seneca provides us with some extra advice on how to achieve a calm and stable mind when he writes, "So you have to get used to your circumstances, complain about them as little as possible, and grasp whatever advantage they have to offer. No condition is so bitter that a stable mind cannot find some consolation in it. We must stay mindful as much as possible, and in this we will find happiness and achieve our goals." Thank you for watching, and please leave a like and subscribe. See you next time on Feeling Philosophical, and goodbye.